What up, guys? So today we got a question from old Edgar here on the YouTubes who asks me, Chewy, which option is better for regular self-defense cases? Gi or no gi? And this was response to a video I made the other day about gi and no gi training. And then, I was looking in the replies to this comment, and everybody in the comment section was giving their not so expert opinion on why one is superior to the other, right? Because you had the gi crowd who came out in force to be like, the gi is superior because, you're able to manipulate cloth, and one person actually said it, you'll never fight a naked person in the streets. Which, one, you probably haven't watched enough like police cam videos, right? And then more importantly, it kind of begs the question, what kind of gym are you training at, naked people? And then to the no gi people, they came out too, they always do, right? They were taking up for the no gi. No. It's not the gi, it's no gi, because you cannot be reliant on a piece of cloth. It's not guaranteed they're going to have a jacket on or anything. So you've got to be ready to train with just the body, right? And that was their case, which I think both people made decent cases. And if you're on my daily email, I sent this out to you as an email a bit before, and one guy actually replied back and told me that the gi is the one true way to do self-defense, right? It's the only way to do true self-defense jiu-jitsu, right? So a lot of dogmatic people about it. So where do I stand on it? I will illustrate to you, Edgar, what I think about this through a hypothetical situation. I think it'll sort of lay this out very clearly. Let's say that you got two people training, Edgar. One person is a gi only player, only does jiu-jitsu in the gi. And when they train, they don't really like takedowns. It hurts their knees or whatever, so they don't do those. They always pull guard. They play a lot of lapel guards, and they flip upside down and go for inversions to the back. And they'll do a lot of submissions off their back. They don't really work a lot on their passing as much. They're just really focused on playing the bottom game a lot, right, with the lapel guards. Okay, we'll just say that that's an example of one. Now, the other person is a no gi practitioner only. They only do no gi. And they focus a lot on their takedowns and clinch work. So they like getting in close, getting good clinches, and being able to take people down because they're interested in mixed martial arts. And then on top, they're focused on a lot of tight guard passing and tight positioning on top. They dabble a little in striking. And on the bottom, they play a lot of different guard positions that allow them some control, like full guard, half guard, butterfly, that sort of thing. Now, again, I know I'm stacking the deck in the favor of one versus the other, but assuming you had these two people, Edgar, which person is more apt to defend themselves in a fight situation, let's say hand-to-hand fight situation, should they find themselves like that in the street? I would assume you would agree with me that it would be the second person, the no gi person, right? I hope you would think that. And again, if you agree with me, why do you think that? It's not because they're wearing no gi, right? It's not the spandex or the rash guard. It's because of the way they're training. Now, if we flipped the situation around and we said that the gi guy was focused a lot on his takedowns, tight clinch work, tight passing, good positional control, stuff like that, and we just flip it around, then we would say that the gi guy has the advantage in a fight situation, right? But again, it's not the material. It's not the cloth. It's the way they train. That's what matters, right? You can get hung up on all this gi versus no gi stuff. It's how you train. That's what matters. Now, sure, the gi does give you some applicable skill as far as being able to manipulate cloth, 100%. If any of you have ever rolled in street clothes and just felt that, it's there. It can be a very powerful tool, right? But at the same time, like shirts, they don't hold up like a gi does, right? So you can put someone in stuff and sometimes it's not nearly as strong and maybe they don't have a shirt. Who knows? You want to be able to use just the person's body, right? So going back to it, I thought both people made reasonable arguments. Just I'm not dogmatic about one versus the other. See, I train both. I train gi and no gi. I just like jiu-jitsu. Now I have a preference towards no gi. It tends to be a little bit easier on me, but I like both. And so again, I don't think it's one or the other. I think a really good idea to consider is what Chris Howder, he said this on my podcast a while back. He was saying that, when you go into jiu-jitsu, you train the sport, but you think street. So when you're going into the gym, eventually you're going to start playing sport jiu-jitsu at some point, right? Because when we come in, we learn these fundamental things a lot of times. And, when you're talking about fighting an untrained person in the street, you're talking about really fundamental basic jiu-jitsu because, I've shared this before, the likelihood of you fighting another jiu-jitsu guy in the street on a drunken brawl or something, pretty low, right? And imagine if you were on the street and all of a sudden you locked up with a guy and you felt like that familiar feeling of maybe an under-over clinch or something with someone, you'd probably instantly go, whoa, why are we fighting? You're one of us. Let's go have a beer. Opposed to getting into a fight with someone. So it's unlikely. Usually it's untrained people. Those are the people that you will probably end up in a fight situation with. People who have not grappled, people who are not grappling regularly. And so the way that they engage is completely different than the way a trained person engages. And so the jiu-jitsu that you use against them, the fighting that you use against them, the wrestling you use against them typically is very basic and fundamental. Now, it's very boring at a certain point because, again, you don't want to train it, and it doesn't really work great against a lot of the more experienced people. Right? It's not necessarily that advanced. So as you start to play the game more and more, and you're playing jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu, you start to get into the situation where you start to go down these rabbit holes in jiu-jitsu specific situations that will not work in a fight. Now, it's okay because we're just playing the sport. We're enjoying this. And there's value even in itself that we are getting ourselves in better shape and we're dealing with the stress of just someone trying to grab us. That all has transferable value, right? But you always want to think about, if self-defense is important to you, how would this work in a fight? I don't think this would work. Now, you can still make the sort of thought to, I'm going to train this and I'm going to use this, but just understanding that if I got into a fight situation, I'm not going to do this, right? I had this with my jiu-jitsu, and I've always had this with my jiu-jitsu because I fought MMA. I've had a few altercations outside of the gym and outside of the cage as a young man. And so I always, in the back of my head, did this where I would look at a move and I'd say, I don't think that would work in a fight situation. Or how would this convert to no gi? I always wonder about those things, right? Like if I'm doing a technique, can I transfer it to no gi? Can I use this in a fight? From the gi. And usually if the answer is I can't do either, I tend to not mess with it too much. Like I don't play a lot of lapel guards because I can't transfer from one to the next, from gi to no gi. And then I can't use it in a fight situation either, right? It's fun to dabble with. I'll show my students stuff if they want to learn it, but I don't mess with it too much. It's just not my personal preference. Now, if you want to do that, go down the rabbit hole, have fun with it. But again, understand this, that as a good jiu-jitsu, and I share this because a lot of people will a lot of times attack jiu-jitsu because a lot of stuff's unrealistic. As you get to a certain point, once you're skilled, once you're good, a lot of times what you will do is you will engage in the sporty side of jiu-jitsu more, but in your back pocket, you always have those fundamentals if you need them. Good tight clinch work, takedowns, tight body positioning, those sorts of things. It's there if you need it. Right? And I speak from a person who has tons of, police officers in my gym, who has students who have had to defend themselves outside of the street, someone who's had to defend himself outside of the street, who's fought MMA, lots of MMA fighters. Again, we have a fighting aspect to our gym. And again, it's in your back pocket if you need it, but you can train sport and enjoy it. But kind of to reel it back around here, to answer your question, Edgar, and to sort of wrap this thing up, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you train, gi or no gi. There's options. I think there's things to learn from both, and I think it's worthwhile to experience both of them. But as far as one versus the other, there's not one thing that makes either or superior. What matters at the end of the day is the way that you train. So Edgar, hopefully that answers your question, brother, and I'll talk to you guys next time.